My name's Sam Trotter.
I'm Nash Jones.
I'm Kalisha Dadio.
I'm Nakia Mason.
And I'm Micah Kennington. And we're going to be going over what we all took from watching the Truman Show in class and how it relates to what we learned in class. The characters that we're going to be highlighting are Truman, Kristoff, Marlon, Meryl, the Omnicam, and Sea Haven. And I guess just to start, what were y'all's biggest takeaways from the show? And have you ever watched it before?
Yeah, I thought it was a really interesting show. It's a really good movie, but it's a really good pick for what we're doing because there's so many different aspects to it with how they're faking it and not, and all the different relationships that are fake relationships and not. It just rolls into these things really really well. I just think it's a really good pick for that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, throughout the show or the movie, I mean, we see a lot of different relationships with the main character Truman and how some are dysfunctional and functional, which is actually one of the topics I have here. I'll start us off. I mean, Truman and Meryl, one of the main relationships throughout the whole show is just it's really functional at first, because then we all think that they're just both being honest with each other, but then throughout the show we figure out that Meryl is not really the most honest, and she's all just based off of script, and how Truman is basically just all honesty, and he thinks he's just living throughout his life. But yeah, I think that their relationship is really just on Meryl's part, it's a lack of honesty, and there's no emotional I don't even know how to say that word, but I mean, basically throughout the whole show we figure out that she's lying to him the whole time, and with the product placement and stuff throughout their whole arguments or any conversations that they're having, I mean, it really shows that she's not really the most honest person towards Truman.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they talk about him, Truman, being an honest guy and stuff, and her not. I think it rolls into the branding or identity of Truman in the show. They want to paint him as this nice, innocent, curious, relatable guy to the audience. To keep them engaged and want to keep coming back. Because if you throw in some random douchebag into the show, nobody's gonna want to watch it. But if he's some innocent, everyday guy that the audience feels is like them, or they can relate to, or they feel has something going for him and they want to root for him, it makes it really easy for people to tune in and watch the show every day, especially when it's a 24-hour broadcast and you gotta have something that people want to relate to be able to get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess that just kind of goes into kind of to go more on relationships. That I feel that's one of the biggest things to talk about in the show.
It really is.
The especially parasocial relationships, which I think we had. Kind of to get back to Meryl, I feel like Meryl has a parasocial relationship with Truman because she's just a job to her. She doesn't really love her. I know it's face to face, but I feel like it's parasocial because there really isn't anything true there.
Mm-hmm.
And vice versa,
And I would on the flip side, throughout the whole show, we do find out that there actually is one single healthy relationship, and I would say that is Truman and Sylvia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, throughout the whole
even
show.
though I think it is parasocial for the most part of the show,
exactly.
It is healthy.
Yeah, I mean, throughout the, at the beginning, whenever we see that scene where he actually sees her for the first time, we feel that that's a healthy relationship, but then it turns, I would say, to a parasocial relationship whenever she's just watching him on the TV and just being on his side the whole time.
Yeah, and forgetting what I was gonna say right then. I was gonna say we saying a parasocial relationship between Meryl and Truman. I feel that was reinforced when he starts to notice things aren't normal. She starts to throw ad placements in there, which obviously is trying to say she's been doing that the whole time. But every time he's just what are you doing? This doesn't make any sense in normal everyday life. And that I guess it shows him catching on to what's happening, which is another reason why the show starts to implement certain things they do to try, I guess bring his father back and stuff. They do certain things to try to get him away from that.
The agenda setting and all that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I think Kristoff is really good at the agenda setting the whole
Mm-hmm.
time until the very end, until it all goes to hell. But I feel he did really good. I talked about the whole meeting with Truman's father. That's he's comes out of nowhere. I mean, it's a traumatic thing. Like that's gonna stick with Truman, and then implementing him back to make it all seem okay. That's pretty genius. So.
Yeah, and with his father, the whole drowning thing they did that made him like traumatic, that was like a really good example of like institutional process and where they built this like fear in Truman of water to keep him like from discovering the whole like reality of what the show is. So like that was like the main motivation for these like creators and producers of making him fear those things, and like his father died and things like that was purely just to keep him away from discovering the reality of his life.
Yeah, those thematic patterns help develop the institutional process. And with that being said, we could all sit and kind of sort of admit that there's been plenty like fourth wall breaks that shows the like the disruption of the institutional process within the show. Like when Meryl's going seeking the camera for help in that scene with Truman where he held up that thing, in addition to Marlon looking at the camera saying, I can't find Truman. So we can sit and say like, within that whole process there has been disruption in that fourth wall break, and that's really where the decline of the world is starting to appear within the audience, and that's where that shift also began. And have you not noticed when he said that with the pause in the show, that's the most attention that show has gotten? I mean, like that's just a very big break with him, the company, everybody, in terms of, the development of the show in its true actuality of what it's supposed to be. Like you said earlier, Truman's a true man, true authentic life. Like it's supposed to be a representation of something that people all around 25-8 want to sit and dwell in. It's relatable in that split second. All of that was just wiped away.
Yeah. So when he becomes like not what people are expecting or used to, it like shocks everybody and it makes them go into this like I need to see what's happening kind of thing. And it's like it's just like gets them more engaged, I guess, in a way, but it also leads towards the end of the show, which isn't really the best thing for the producers.
Yeah.
I mean, back on the dad topic, I mean that was just a whole, because I put it down as functional and dysfunction whenever he had thought he had saw his dad, and then like throughout that scene, like the bus drivers, like they're like all running, there's like literally a group of runners who is bumping into Truman so that they can get his dad away from him. And so like that whole time I'm thinking, well, maybe this dad is like a good figure and maybe we want him to see Truman and like maybe they have a healthy relationship. But then as the show goes on, we all kind of realize that his dad is also an actor, and then it's kind of just, I mean,
yeah, and you realize the motive behind his dad, like trying to show up to him just because he's jealous that he's not in the show.
Yeah.
He doesn't actually care about Truman. But I mean, sorry.
But no, you're fine. It's like moments like that, like with selective framing. It's really interesting, like the implications of that in here. Because that also ties in with media bias. Christoph justifies manipulation as protection. You love him, you protect him, but to what extent? It's morally wrong. Sylvia apparently is the only one who has a head on her shoulders, but even so, like, it's just the motive and the implications. It's not exclusively what is shown to the audience, but the implications and the motive that's hidden from Truman and the rest of the audience, which also is what we've seen through Christoph. So that whole thing is just a little insane and wicked to me.
The relationship between Christoph and Truman is probably one of the things that I picked up on the most. It's just weird. It really very weird. And I think our cards have the the parasocial like showing images of Christoph petting Truman as he's sleeping. That's weird. It's weird how at some points in the movie he seems very attached and very caring, and then others tries to drown him at the end. It's kind of weird.
I like snapped out of reality.
I like the like branding they introduced to him in a way where they're like he thinks he's this like protective like overseer of Truman. Like when Truman's trying to get out, I was like, you don't want to see the real world. Like it's no better. Like this world I've created for you is better. Like I'm keeping you safe. He truly thinks he's doing what's best for Truman, like in his head, and he's like this little like pet to him. He just wants exactly how he sees things, like how he thinks things should be. And it's like this whole like alternate reality that he's created and he's playing out. And so when that's like falling through, it's like almost breaking his own reality because this is the reality he set for Truman. But he's almost like using Truman like to play like through him, like his the reality he wants for himself in a way.
To bring another character in here, I was going to talk about Marlon a little bit. One of my key points here is connotation and denotation, and I would say the whole bridge scene with Truman and Marlon is like the perfect representation of that, because like the whole time Marlon's like, I will never lie to you, And like this whole, the connotation of the scene is like everything feels honest and he feels like a loyal best friend to him. But then we realize that the denotation is just, you know, he's never lied to him, but the whole time he's been lying to him. And then you like, to like reassure him, he's like, everything's real, we're real. And then, you know, Truman ends up finding out that that was just all fake.
Yeah, and I think that that whole like conversation kind of rolls into like institutional process as well, because there's a reason behind him doing that. He's not just doing that so that the show looks better.
Yeah.
He's reassuring him these things are real, so that Truman like doesn't gain this interest in trying to like continually like go to Fiji. All these kind of things that he wants to like escape, they're trying to like reassure him that like those things aren't needed through like this relationship they've created with Marlon. Because it's hard to like, if there is no direct relationship that he appreciates, there's no good way for them to get something into his head. Because like, as you can see, like he doesn't honestly like his wife. He doesn't, there's hardly anybody that the only person he really trusts in the show is Marlon. So like the reason they've created that relationship is for the reason that they can get the ideas they want to get into Truman's head.
Yeah. I feel like another term with that is the encoding, decoding. It's the oppositional readings. You know, Marlon, he's lying. I mean, he's lying to him, obviously, but he's trying to show true, genuine care. But he doesn't want to lie. Like, I think he does care.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just a weird relationship because I think he sees him as a friend, but he also has to do his job at the end of the day. I think that's hard on Marlon.
About the Sea Haven column, I got another connotation denotation situation is with the twins. The twins pushing him against the wall and stuff. I feel like that scene right there, which is like early in the movie, that scene right there really like pushed it off and was like, okay, something's up. Yeah. And I mean, I've seen the movie before, and I mean, I've never really like noticed like these things. And I mean, like the connotation denotation really, like whenever you focus on stuff like this, I mean, it really just makes the movie pop.
Yeah, I think that relates to the media bias of Sea Haven in a way, where I lost it for a second, but like they don't present the negative aspects at all, like the camera views and all that stuff. Like during Sea Haven, anything is like selected and shown in a positive way. No negative things are shown. Like they're trying to show only the good things, which like shows the media bias of that in a way.
Yeah, and then to piggyback off that, we have framing, and we see him, and then, like you said, they're only showing the good things, and how that Sea Haven should be this nice, lovely place for Truman, but it's really not. It's really like I don't know the word.
It's making him lose his mind eventually. Yeah, I mean, it does seem all great, and I feel like Christoph has somewhat of a good point. Like, there's no bad. This is a cool world. It's made for you. Like, you're the star. When, I mean, Truman in the middle of the show is like, I feel like the whole world revolves around me, a little foreshadowing. But I just feel like I would also go in saying, you know, it's just not normal. It's not healthy. It's not a healthy relationship between anything.
Yeah.
So.
He was willing to kill the man
Yeah.
in front of millions. I mean, what's moral about that? I mean, like I said, it's solely for monetization. He said he was born on camera. He could die on camera.
He treats him as like some like project almost,
Yeah.
where he has to see it from start to end, and he wants to see the whole process exactly how he wants it. And as soon as Truman escapes, it's no longer his ideology or his ideas. They get to turn Truman's life. So you like I think that's part of the reason why he was okay with ending it there, is because he gets the full scope of what happens.
Yeah, and I think that's also why he went so cuckoo nanas when Truman was actually displaying that he knew like the patterns of everything. Like when he was in the car and he was like, these three people are gonna walk by, just give it a second. And they did. So like it was
I mean, I wonder how he felt in that situation when him and Sylvia were running from the library. I thought that was a pretty good scene. I mean, we even get the Omnicam that's like trying to find them the whole time, and he can't. And then like some random person who says he's Sylvia's dad is like, she's going crazy, she's moving away, and then we never see her in the show again. I mean, that's just, I feel like that'd be like a perfect setup from Christoph's point of view.
That's an early part of the framing. It was
Yeah.
when they ran off and she had said, if we don't go now, it won't happen, or something like that. And then her dad comes in the frame, Fiji, we're going to Fiji to like throw something. And the whole rest of the movie was him wanting to go to Fiji. It's early, and I don't think that was meant to be. I think it was just something he came up with.
Yeah.
It's a little thing like that reset the entire frame of the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to roll into like, you were talking about like the camera and the point of view that the camera has. I find it like it's a really neat like tool for them to use in a way. And also like adds on to media bias I was talking about earlier, where they only show the viewpoints and the angles that benefit them or make it look like a good thing, don't show the negatives. I think the camera definitely like rolls into that in a way where it's almost like a character of the show, even though it's not. Because the viewpoints are determine how you see Truman, how you see all this different stuff by cutting out certain things and including certain things. So I think like the Omnicam, like while you don't necessarily think of it when you think about characters or involvement in the show, it's like actually it's a big part of it.
It is.
And like we even talked about that early on in the show. We were talking about like the funny camera placements, and like they're always they're everywhere. And then we figure out like later in the show, like the Omnicam being a character, we see Marlon and Meryl, like we stated earlier, they're both literally talking to it as if it were a character.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. And I think it's also a representative of like the parasocial relationship between the audience and Truman.
Mm-hmm.
Truman has no idea anybody in the world exists, and he is probably one of the most famous people in the world, as they showed. People in Asia were watching it, in India were watching it, in America were watching it. I think it's kind of crazy how one man who just lives a normal life selling insurance can be, and that's all he thinks. He's literally just living a normal life, has an influence on that many people.
As good as suburban life gets. I mean, that's what he was displaying.
Yeah.
I mean that framing is just it's insane there. I mean, whenever we see what was I about to say? Oh, I forgot.
Another like, I mean, they're using framing to like frame, I guess, like this perfect life. They want it to be like this like ideal thing that like everybody strives for. He's got this, he's got this like hot wife. He's got like she's a homemaker. She does whatever he wants. Like, he's got this great job, great coworkers. He lives in the perfect town, like the best town ever. No crime, nothing like that. Just like framing this like perfect life, and everybody like, I guess to give the audience like an idea of like, this is what life could be. This is what like the best of the best is.
There's a lot of positive framing, but I feel like there's also framing bad news messages, especially like, oh, I want to go to Fiji, airplane crash, or some other ones. Oh, he sees his dad, his homeless problem in Sea Haven, stuff like that. There's a lot of bad news messages framing as well.
That reminds me, it was about him being in the insurance industry, is because there's just tons of like catastrophes that happen in there, and so it just makes him kind of scared to go outside of Truman or go outside of the Sea Haven. So.
Yeah, it makes you realize that like every aspect of his life, there's a reason to it.
Yeah.
It's nothing's random, which also shows like the genius behind like Christoph and like I guess it also throws in like the branding and identity of him as like this like genius, this like incredibly smart person that like knows what he's doing and like has a role in everything that does happen. Like nothing is for no reason. Like each thing that Truman does through his daily life, whether it be like his like good morning like thing that he says, each thing has a purpose. That has it so like people see him as this like innocent, like repeatable guy, and you're ready for that like almost like theme song at the beginning of the day to like catch in and see good morning, good evening.
And I think that's something we can kind of roll into the ending on is like why do we think Truman found out? Because it is a pretty good world technically, and that's all he knows. And how Christoph said it, we accept the reality of the world that we are presented. We don't even know if this world's fake, but it's what we have. So I guess, do y'all think it took too long for him to find out? Do we think he found out too soon?
Given that they still allowed Truman to have his own personal endeavors with his obsession with Sylvia still, and the whole connection with her, and was it Fiji? What was it?
Yeah.
It was Fiji. Like, obviously, that was the drive. Ultimately, if you really think about it, that drive, they let him have it, continue to develop. And when it came down to like his dad reappearing in his amnesia, really. Anyways, but the implication of that is it was just too much. Like he was noticing everything. Once that started happening, everything was just being noticed. Like even with the product placements with Meryl, like who are you talking to? Like why are you? What's going on? And obviously with the twins, he was conditioned to believe that the branding through them was normal. Like they're always pushing this man against the poster every morning. What's going on? Once he started noticing these things and beginning to realizing the systematic implications of all of them, he went cuckoo nanas. That was the breakthrough. Once he got tackled in that, what was it, the forest or something?
Yeah.
That was the breakthrough right there. He noticed something was off. He beat the cameras not once, not twice, but like 3 times throughout the series of his life. I felt like he had a notice of it, but once that happened, it was like, I got you for sure. Like that's what it was.
I think the like, overall thing that did cause him to figure it out was spatial boundaries.
Yes.
If this studio had like an unlimited amount of space, he never would have figured out. I don't think, because he wants to go to Fiji. You go to Fiji, like you want to like travel past this, leak or whatever, like nuclear leak or whatever that was. Like you can keep going.
It wasn't just the water; it was other things. Like he couldn't drive across town because there was something blocking.
Yeah, you can't climb over this hill as a child because like it's dangerous. But what's going on over there? So I think like the spatial and like temporary boundaries are what ultimately like caused it. While there's other things that roll into, I think if he had been able to do those things, he probably would have overlooked those smaller things.
I mean, there was a scene where the rain was just coming down on him. So,
Yeah,
like, I wonder if that was like
as a child.
Yeah.
Or no, that wasn't as a child. That was when he ran off.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, you got to think in his shoes.
I feel like we would figure it out a little earlier,
Exactly.
But
and
this
again,
is all he knew, though. So
Yeah,
his hand
exactly.
is normal to him. Like,
And
this is all he knows.
They can also introduce things to explain it like rationally in the show because they're the ones that determine
Yes, like
ideologies
when
and
the
realities.
camera fell. Like when the camera fell, or when the radio was like, stitched out, and he's hearing the commands of where he's going. Like, oh, I'm on the street.
Yeah.
Like it's stuff like that.
Mhm.
They are very heavy on manipulating the scene specifically for Truman to be content on where he is.
Mhm.
Like Christoph had this all systematically planned down to the T of keeping him there. This is a man who started off with one camera to the Omnicam. I mean, obviously there was some development there to make sure that it was all systematically correct to where Truman will never find out.
Yeah.
But because of those endeavors and because of all those other scenarios, like you mentioned, he broke. He realized, he found out, he was done, and he was out of there. Surprisingly, I thought he would have gave up on the boat, not gonna lie. That was, but yeah.
But I mean,
I think there's a lot we could take away from this, and I'll probably think about all these different definitions that I would have never known about. When I'm watching movies, like, on a Friday night, I'll be thinking about the encoding and decoding of the message. So I think it was good watching this movie and learning all these things.
I mean, you definitely take these things to like relationships in real life for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I said that, like, overall, that the Truman Show showed how media constructs reality to control the audience and potentially the people in it to use or inflict the control / persuasion of the patterns, conditioning, and etc. to gain a profit. And overall, that's what we did see
Yeah,
within
I would agree with that.
the movie.
I think that's a good way to end it.
It's a good way to end it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Douglas.